Alright. I am ready to go. So on go. I am ready to go.
5,
so
4,
on go.
3, 2,
5,
1,
4,
go.
3, 2, 1, go. So this is Shovel Knight, Specter of Torment. So this is the most
Shovel
recent
Knight
DLC that
Torment.
came out. This is the most recent DLC that came out in March with the Switch. Came out in March with the game's had a lot of work put into it. A lot of runners have been coming together. The game's had a lot of work put into it. A lot of runners have been coming together since the game
Any
first
percent
came
has
out.
changed dramatically.
So this is Specter. He kind of so this is
He
Specter.
controls
He kind of
similarly to Shovel Knight,
but he jumps
controls
similarly
less high,
to Shovel Knight, but he jumps
and
less
he
high.
can climb walls. He can do this neat
And
dash
he
attack.
can climb walls. He can do this.
You saw
neat
me
little
already
dash
collecting
attack.
a red skull.
You saw me
I'm
already
going to be using
collecting
those
a red
to
skull.
upgrade,
I'm going to be using those
to purchase
upgrade,
curios, which are the sub-weapons.
to
for
purchase
Specter.
curios, which are the sub-weapons for Specter. Slight little mess up there. There is some money managing that's going on as well. I have to try and pick up a certain amount of gold by the time I get to the Iron Whale. Before I enter that stage, I'll be wanting to upgrade my weapon. And before that even, I'll also be upgrading or purchasing an armor. Plains is kind of a very introductory type of stage. You definitely get used to all of the mechanics very easily. Oddly enough, it's also very introductory to a lot of the speedrun elements. There's a lot of tight tricks. This is a neat little trick to grab this skull as you transition. Yeah, this run has been put together by many different players, so I'm very happy to see how this game has come along for Specter so quickly. A Specter of Torment being a prequel will feature all of the same stages as Shovel Knight, but aesthetically they are incredibly different. The music has been remixed, and you'll be fighting all of the bosses, but they all have, as you can see, something slightly different. So Black Knight, as Specter, has a stun lock, very similar to Shovel's. Thankfully, it is as easy to do, unlike Plague Knight, who has a hell of a time dealing with this guy. But Black Knight will make up for this embarrassing defeat later on. Nice visual cue for when I can press start is as soon as Black Knight gets up. You actually can't mash. You can't mash through a lot of the stuff in this game. And to get up off the balcony, you actually have to use a jumper attack. Yeah, I have 1500 gold, 6 skulls. I will be needing 10 to pick up the first sub-weapon, which is Judgment Rush. One of the nice things about Specter's campaign compared to Shovel Knight's campaign is that you actually can choose the levels in any order. So we go straight to Propeller Knight stage because the stage that you beat determines which weapon you unlock. Now in this stage there are fan cycles that I'll be trying to meet, and they are global from the moment I enter the stage. This is a difficult little trick here. A backwards damage boost that is kind of annoying to set up, and this is a fun little way to get through this room. I'm going to be trying to pick up as much money as I can without wasting time. Ooh, that was a little risky. Wow, checkpoints are hard, guys. Hopefully I can get past this guy without getting slapped. Yo, he was nice. What a guy. I messed up a little bit, so I'm going to make sure I don't fall down to my death. Now there's an upcoming fight with something we call the Dinghy Dropper, and I have to make sure I don't get hit by his bombs while reflecting them back at him. Looking good so far. In terms of the level's fan cycle, I am slightly behind where I would like to be, but I should be able to compensate. Coming up on the first auto-scroller. It's a small chance to breathe here. This is one of the most difficult stages, casually. The night stages are all actually sort of ordered. the amount of money that you get for defeating the boss implies how difficult they're going to be. Propeller not only gives you the most money, but the best weapon. And unfortunately, we need a lot more money, so I'm going to be breaking a ton of checkpoints. Isn't this a speedrun-friendly game? A lot of people struggle with learning the beginning of Specter Knight's any percent run for that reason, but there are plenty of safety measures I can take. And the nice thing about getting an auto-scroller early on is that you don't actually lose time in trying to get things like skulls and money. Okay, I barely made that, but that extra money will help me out later. So I've already gotten 13 skulls, because I need to pick up 2 weapons, not just Judgment Rush. And this is the dreaded Triple Jawa room, where these guys are going to give me the business here. Oof, okay, that wasn't so bad. Alright, didn't catch the second fan cycle, but that's not terrible either. Coming up on Propeller Knight, this is another reason why the beginning of this run is difficult for newcomers. This guy deals a full heart of damage, and we only have 4 health. Cool. So as you can see, Specter's attacks are very quick. He actually has about the same DPS, damage per second, as Shovel Knight did when you were doing jump shovel canceling, which was one of Shovel Knight's more difficult techniques. But Specter can actually do that very quickly, just standing on the ground and attacking. His scythe is very powerful. In order to compensate for how powerful his scythe is, they had to make his weapons absurdly broken in some ways. So Specter is one of the most powerful knights by far. And you can see Judgment Rush, which I spent 10 skulls to get, allows me to pass through walls, and it deals a full heart of damage, so it'll kill a lot of enemies. This is Manny, and you have to spend money to unlock him, and unlocking him allows you to purchase armor. The armor that I just bought is Rail Mail, which, as you can see, lets me grind around. It lets me treat every single surface like a rail, which is only available in 2 of the stages normally. So next we're going to Explodatorium. This stage has more global cycles. This stage is particularly scary because there's a lot of ways to take a lot of damage very quickly, and the first cycle is actually really tight. Taiwan Ninja, a runner who's very adept at New Game Plus runs, actually helped optimize this stage quite a lot, as did Tolu, who was primarily a low percent runner at first, but has jumped on the 80% train. And Patois is responsible for the route that I'm using right now, which is currently the Bounding Soul. Bounding Soul was a route that I sort of conceived a while ago that used a different weapon other than the Skeletal Sentry, which is a very powerful weapon, but it takes so long to get the Skeletal Sentry, and apparently if you're really good, you don't need it. The basketball that we'll be picking up, so friendly dubbed as the basketball, will actually be doing just as much damage, if not more, in some cases. So this is the Alchemeister, a fairly difficult encounter, but Rail Mail helps us fight the current there. These fire traps here are also on a global cycle, and I didn't get to jump immediately, slightly late for that first one. But that's fine, I still caught a good cycle here. So Judgment Rush has obviously been helping us deal with a number of these rooms and sort of trivializing them, which is great, but unfortunately it's not that great of a weapon. And as we come up here on Plague Knight, I'm going to have to beat him basically without anything. Wow, I actually got a really lucky pattern here. Very nice. So Plague Knight can teleport around quite a lot, which makes it very difficult to stay with him. We used to have the Skeletal Sentry for this fight because we did Plague Knight much later on, but in this route we actually need the weapon that Plague Knight unlocks for us. But before we can actually get that weapon, we've beaten 2 of the Knight stages, apart from Black Knight, who was in the plains. And now we get this dream sequence, the memory sequence actually. This is the Memory of Adventure, where we play as Donovan, who is Specter's former self, and his partner Luan, who helps us out by serving as the lanterns that we would normally be using to navigate the stage. Luan's a little tricky to work with sometimes. I have to wait for him to get in position. But apart from that, Luan's usually pretty good about being where he needs to be and catching you. The dream sequences have quite a lot of money in them, but I am very over budget right now, so I don't have to worry about getting excess gold whatsoever. So now that we've beaten Explodatorium, and I have 5 of those red skulls, I will be purchasing the Bounding Soul, the namesake for this route. And this weapon, although at first is not terribly powerful, we will be upgrading it. All of the weapons, as you see, get their own little mini dungeon here to teach you how to use them. And now that I have the Bounding Soul, I'm going to basically not use it for quite a while until I get to a boss. The next stage up is Lost City, and this actually has some of my most cherished music in this game. And that stage has quite a number of difficult tricks, especially very run- Wow, actually, I managed to pop that beetle up. That's something that I never even rely on, but that's a thing. I'm actually done with skulls. I don't need to get any more. So I'm quite content with going through the stages as quickly as I can, within reason. Tolu actually found a very terrifying trick here, but I'm going to opt for something slightly safer. But still terrifying. Now, because I don't have a whole lot of darkness, which is that meter that basically determines how much of my sub-weapon I can use, I have to come up with ways to get through the stage without relying too heavily on Judgment Rush. Thankfully, Railmail is such a great tool that we can make up for the lack of Judgment Rush we would normally be using. It's been routed out quite a lot. This is a neat little trick. For some reason, thanks buddy, the basketball reflects the slime there. Oh, okay, so I had to do that real quick. Basically, as you scale a wall, you can use Judgment Rush if there's no enemy on screen, and it'll actually prevent you from flying away. You would normally have to bounce between 2 surfaces to wall climb. I'm going to be doing that again right here. So now we're coming up on Mole Knight. Mole Knight is the only boss we use the unupgraded soul for. The extra money that we get from this stage allows us to upgrade it without really having to go out of our way. Under normal conditions, I really got a lot of extra money, but even then I wouldn't have been able to have upgraded it without picking up a ton of unnecessary cash in earlier stages. So now that I have all this extra cash, I'm going to upgrade that Bounding Soul that I got. This is Legion, and very similar to Manny, you have to spend money to unlock them, and then you can purchase the upgrade. So now I have an upgraded Bounding Soul. Bounding Soul requires half a bar per shot, so I can fire a total of 4 of these Bounding Souls before I run out of magic. And every time you damage an enemy, you'll gain back some magic. Bosses are the same. Oh boy. So this is Reese. He's what some people would call fun. He's also a little terrifying. Okay, that wasn't so bad. But yeah, Reese tends to move around quite a lot. I let him get away from me at the beginning. But you can see how the upgrade to the Bounding Soul has already made it a much more powerful weapon. My previous limit of 2 is now 4 per... whoa. 4 on the screen, and they now do piercing attacks, which is actually vital to the boss strats that involve it.
Real quick here, just
Go
a little
for it.
announcement. We have made over $100 now. We're at $102.
Excellent.
Thanks to a donation from Applesauce, minus the E. There's a $15 donation. With that, Wii Music Pitch Perfect has been met. The next milestone is at $225 with Rocket Power Beach Bandits, cheat percent. And currently in the bid war for Mario Party 2, Luigi is now winning at $15.
Yo, Luigi, get it in there. So Iron Whale is kind of a really fast-paced level. As you can see, I'm almost halfway through it by now. And I barely have enough darkness at each turn to be using Judgment Rush. I'm looking to have over 2,000 gold by the time I beat this stage, which I already have. So I'm completely fine. I don't have to worry about money unless if I die. No Jinxerino. This is the, what we call the 420 fish. A Tithalon is the name of the actual enemy. And we call him 420 because when you try to attack him, sometimes he's just really high and it's hard to hit him. But luckily, that's why we have the Bounding Soul, because Bounding Soul will use the edges of the room to rebound again and again. And if he's kind to me, he'll be in a very advantageous spot. That's actually a really good spot. Perfect. He goes down very quickly. There's a lot of nods in the level layout to the Shovel Knight and Plague Knight stages, so it's cool to see how Specter ends up having to deal with them. But one addition that is absolutely terrifying is this one, the one who we call Bertha. Bertha is akin to the giant Cheap Sheeps from Mario games, as she will actually deal 2 full hearts of damage if she ever makes bodily contact with you. So you especially... Wow, hello. This guy. Rude dude. You especially want to avoid getting hit by Bertha. Now, one of the terrifying things about Treasure Knight is usually how much damage he deals with his attacks, but you're going to see the Bounding Soul really put in some work now. All of those 4 shots that I threw out at the beginning bounced off the corner, came back to hit him, and when he was down at the bottom, I managed to reflect them because the Bounding Soul is actually a weapon that Specter can interact with. He can actually dribble it, is what it looks like. So I have over 4,000 gold, which means that I am going to purchase an upgrade here to my maximum mana. Now these Darkness Wisps can be found throughout the stage, but that takes a while. You have to go out of your way for that. So having the extra money to simply buy it in the hub will save a lot of time. But now we're entering the Lich Yard. And the Lich Yard is in the regular campaign for Shovel and Plague. It's where you would find Specter Knights. So who's here, you might ask? Well, they actually decided to put Phantom Striker in here. Phantom Striker being one of the Wandering Travelers. Basically one of the backer characters. And we're going to see how he's been changed up. He was one of the most difficult bosses and one of the most time-consuming bosses early on, but this weapon has done quite a lot of wonders for boss fights, and new strats keep getting found overall that improve the fights. At this point, even just that little bit of extra mana is really helping us speed the stage up. You can see that Specter's toolkit has already gotten quite powerful compared to its base form. Oops, okay, well, I'm gonna have to make some blind jumps here. Oops, okay, so it's a good thing I cut that checkpoint. Specter does not quite enjoy his platforming as much as, oh man, as much as he did when he was the boss of the stage. There we go. So I may have lost a little bit of money, but actually at this point one of the beautiful things about the route is that I don't have to worry about my money. All of the bosses will provide very quickly. Oh wow, I barely missed one hit. So you can see how powerful a good dribble can be on these bosses. Bouncing these attacks while pinning him to the wall, and that's a ton of damage. We've beaten a couple more night stages, so now we're treated to another memory. And in the first stage, we had access to the caltrops, but we didn't actually pick them up, so we're automatically given them, which is kind of nice because they're pretty useful. Go, Luan, go. Go, Luan, go. Okay, so Luan didn't want to cooperate. He can actually run ahead of you and allow you to jump up a little bit sooner. And now I'm going to be using caltrops here and there. I do want to save some of them for the boss fight, but they do help me push enemies into more favorable positions. The upcoming boss encounter is actually with everyone's favorite, Shield Knight, who is here guarding the amulet. Okay, that wasn't so good of a first jump. Oh, well, that was fine, the second jump. Good. Not a bad fight. She actually behaved for the most part. You can see the caltrops allow her to just run over them and pile on damage. Kind of squish some phases together. Otherwise you'd really have to spend a lot of time chasing her down. Only a couple more night stages to go. We're going to be entering, I feel pretty comfortable about Clockwork Tower, but this is a stage where you normally don't get any of the checkpoints. I'm going to make a couple small detours and prevent something tragic from happening. But the mana at the beginning of this stage, my darkness, is actually perfectly calculated to the point where I'm going to be using a Judgment Rush after barely getting enough darkness for it. A small crusher sort of room. Uh-oh, okay, so that's actually not good. I really would rather not have to wait anymore. I had to use an extra Judgment Rush in there, which means I'm going to skip using Judgment Rush in this room. It would normally save a little bit of time here, but you can see I barely have enough mana to do it right there. One of the other things that you have to be careful about with in this stage is you technically don't have to stop for health at any point. So the amount of health that you have going into the Tinker Knight fight is the amount that you would carry throughout the stage. If you don't take any damage, cool. If you end up taking hits, well, you could totally risk it. Risk it for the biscuit. As far as Tinker Knight goes, why would you want to have a ton of health for the fight? And this is why a lot of people even pick up extra health. I'm not upgrading my health at all in this run. But Tinker Knight has been slightly reworked. If you remember from the old campaigns with Shovel Knight and Plague Knight, he fell over pretty quickly in that first phase. You gotta see that Tinker Knight is not such a slouch back in time, apparently. This stage used to be the third one in the run because you would pick up those extra skulls that I just got. But it still turns out to be faster using Bounding Soul overall. Nice little trick here found by Gentle. You can actually jump over that ceiling. Skip having to wait on these guys, but I slipped. Don't get crushed is bad, kids. This is a nice little trick found by a Zulag to skip having to deal with the room, and then Judgment Rush kind of does the rest. Oh wow, what a guy. So now I have 2 health, which is actually really dangerous because his attacks do a full heart of damage. I'm gonna go ahead and opt to not heal, be a man on Tinker. But
we got a...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We got a $3 donation from Xenosteg. Sorry if I butchered that. This is Pink
Yo, Xenus! He is one of my favorite viewers, definitely in very often, so I appreciate their support. Coming up on Tinker now, and all I needed was another 4,000 gold after this stage, so you can see that I'm gonna be just fine beating him, if I can beat him. Okay, first phase, not so bad. I actually managed to avoid a damage at all. Oh my god, the wall broke. So as you can see, Bounding Soul has definitely well earned its place. The amount of time that you save on this fight alone is kind of ridiculous. An extra 4,000 gold in our pocket means we can purchase another darkness upgrade. And although I could technically get another one after getting a little bit more money, you actually don't need to. It would cost more time, you know, waiting for Specter to pick... Yo, who broke the window? This guy. Rude. Anyway. Wouldn't need that magic if I play perfectly, so... Let's go ahead and not do that. This is Pridemore Keep. Has some of the best music. Such a jovial tune. This is Pridemore Keep from Shovel Knight, but in a major key. Kinda neat how a simple change has made the tune so cheerful and fitting. Please don't clobber me. And he clobbered me. Oh well. Health isn't really that big of an issue on this stage. This is a little tight though. Nice. And one of Railmail's abilities that I never really went over is that you can grind on spikes. I'm gonna use Judgment Rush here to skip having to wait on that chandelier. Is there food? Nice. I don't know why they need to set up a flail to protect a pair of rotten chicken bones, but okay. This is a nice little trick by a Zulag if I can... Nope. Okay. Well, better than dying. I'm going to be taking some intentional damage here. But the King Knight fight is actually not that threatening, so I shouldn't have to worry about missing some health. Oh boy, thank you. This fight was a lot easier with the Skeletal Sentry. This was one of those fights that actually got slightly worse because the old weapon we used fired out a bunch of bullets, and we could position him in such a way that most of the bosses would run along those bullets and take an insane amount of damage from the weapon. That last little sequence I just skipped was watching Donovan get essentially turned into the spooky man that you see before you right now. But we have no time for anime. It's time for video games. Entering the stranded ship here. This is probably the most darkness-intensive stage. It's very tempting to pick up an extra bit of mana just for this stage half the time. But it has been routed just so carefully that we get the most benefit out of our mana. Now there was a slight global cycle with this thing. Interestingly, of all things, they just made an enemy a global cycle. I'm gonna get this checkpoint, and then we're fighting quite an interesting mini-boss. Ah, darn. So I missed the quick kill on it, which kind of sucks. Whoa! Okay, wow, I barely saved myself. I'm going to, not bother with that. Bounding Soul and Skeletal Sentry actually basically compete for, like, tricks that they can save time with on this stage. These switches alter the direction of the rails, and when I do get on these rails, I'm locked into the direction they flow in. I needed to make sure I have enough mana, even after killing these enemies here, which I will have just enough, that I'll get to use one more Judgment Rush. Get some sick kick flips in. Yeah. So this is Polar Knight. And there he goes. Oddly enough, the Skeletal Sentry also would have benefited more in this fight, but enough trick shots will make decent work of Polar Knight. So now with all of the knights supposedly recruited, we are missing one to fulfill the Enchantress's wishes here. We get a little bit more plot. It sets Specter on the course to go and challenge the Enchantress herself. And this is quite the gauntlet of the stage. We're in the Tower of Fate's entrance. There is a pot cycle that I'm going to try and beat at the beginning. It's not terribly difficult to keep up with, but it was kind of a mystery how fast you could go early on. And this book room here, we can actually kind of skip half of it. I'm gonna go with the safer strat in this room. Refill my magic really quickly. This stage has elements from all the other stages and a couple of its own, like this Crusher segment. So this is quite a wall for a lot of people. But not even specifically because of the stage, but also because of the boss that's coming up. Okay. I'm fine. That was a little questionable. And guess who's back? It's our lovely friend. Oh man. I'm gonna use her to get out of here. Oh man. So that was kind of terrifying. So now I have a little bit of a dilemma here. I'm going to pick up the health at the end of this stage. I would normally skip it if I were going for BBs. But the fight coming up actually requires a lot of damage boosting. And I could certainly survive it with just 2 health, but only just barely. This was a nice trick found by Speedfrog to sort of skip the last half of this auto-scroller. The ladder is always loaded once you get high enough, so you can just kind of exit the room a little early. Progressive rain. So Black Knight is back, and with quite a vengeance. I hate this fight. Alright, I done goofed big time. I actually have to deal with possibly the worst thing ever, which is Black Knight on the ground. Frick. So with that attack, I knew that there was a good chance of me getting hit, and unfortunately, most of Terrapin's attacks do a full heart of damage. Hopefully I will be able to get the aerial battle this time properly. Okay, there we go. Off to a much better start. You can see how much the aerial battle manages to keep the fight much more consistent over the hectic ground battle. But with Black Knight out of the way, we only have one stage left to go. And I will be going for a fun little trick. Save a little bit of time. The infamous tile block room. Similar to Zelda games, I guess. But we can kind of just not have to deal with it, which is pretty good. So here's something neat. Those bricks didn't actually break. When they launched, they weren't destroyed because I left the room too quickly, so they existed again when I re-entered the room. And I used them to allow me to jump up and reach that platform without having to do the room at all. I'm gonna grab this checkpoint because Enchantress is crazy and she can do whatever she wants. And you have to start the fight with like an intentional damage boost, sort of. I'm not sure about this, but I will try anyway. Oh yeah, that's a shame. If I had managed to get one more attack out, she would have died. Let's try that again. Oh, absolutely not this time. She actually, her dives are random, and although she usually flows with your dives, she actually managed to dodge quite a lot of them. But yeah, on that first one, I was very close to killing her under the floor. And unfortunately, our buddy Reese is going to take a little bit more unhealthy amounts of dark magic. And he is the last boss. I don't want to be down here. This is actually already a problem. These rails are all completely random, and I have to adjust to them every single time. Wasn't able to get the quick kill on him, but that's fine. This fight is honestly like such a nightmare. Time. That would be when time is called. Yeah, that was Specter of Torment. A lot of fun, very fast-paced. It is now the fastest night of the 3 of them. Previously, that was Plague Knight. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to show this off for everyone. And I do want to mention that there is a tournament being held for this game that I would very much like to see people applying for. The speedrunning community is always welcoming more people for Shovel Knight, for any of the characters.